Welcome back to another episode of the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey, Jason, John, Pauline, Dylan, Mel. Guys, they did it. The team who I said could never do it, did it.
Well,
Made it to the World Series. They became relevant, the Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, for years, going back to the beginning of this whole thing that we've been doing, I have always been down on the Blue Jays. And at every turn, I'm not going to say they proved me wrong because I still don't have any respect for them. But
the people who watch this pod are going to tear you apart because you talk like this about the Blue Jays. They killed you last week for talking all that crap about Ohtani. And now it's just both.
You know what? Let me hear it. I want it. Give me the smoke. Because I will be proven right long term. They're not that good of a team. They have an incredible player in Vladdy, and I will never say anything negative on Vladdy because he is and always has been great. But that's where it stops. But we'll get more into them in a little bit. We have our World Series matchup. Dodgers, Blue Jays, East Coast, West Coast, U.S., Canada. It's going to be interesting. The team that Ohtani signed with and the team that JP Morosi said he was going to sign with.
The team that drove up the price.
He was en route in the airplane, but then he was never in the airplane to begin with. His dog isn't named Blue Jay. But just to recap the whole playoffs as a scope. On the National League side of things, the Dodgers started off their run beating the Reds 2-0 in the wild card round. The Cubs had beat the Padres 2-1 in that end. Then the Cubs went on to face the eventual NLCS opponent for the Dodgers, the Milwaukee Brewers, in the divisional round. Brewers taking that 3-2. Dodgers hold off the Phillies. Sorry, John. 3-1. Pretty easy work for the Dodgers, who then go on to sweep the Brewers 4 games.
So far, the hardest series for the Dodgers was the Phillies.
Only one to give up a fight. So Dodgers take on and sweep the Brewers 4-0 en route to their second World Series appearance in as many years. The American League side, the Tigers, the 6th seed, took down the Cleveland Guardians 2-1. They went on to face the ALCS loser, Seattle Mariners. Seattle ended up taking that one 3-2 in the divisional round from the Tigers. Boston Yankees. The Yankees took a thriller 2-1 before getting smacked by the AL champion Blue Jays in the divisional round 3-1. That's a lot more. It's closer than it. It's not as close as the score really makes it out to be. It was not anywhere close to what a 3-1 should feel like. The Blue Jays had control the whole way through. Now, Seattle, Toronto, we had a sweep on one end. We had a 7-game masterpiece on the other. Seattle fell 4-3. Toronto taking them down, winning games 6 and 7 after losing the first 2 at home in the Rogers Center. An incredible run for the Mariners ended. Cal Raleigh's incredible season is over. I'm kind of glad to not be hearing about that as a Judge guy. But
you might still hear about it because he might win MVP.
Oh, don't rain on my parade today, John. I won't have to see any more Raleigh home runs.
You just said you were talking about how the Phillies basically, were easy work for the Dodgers. I can't just.
Toronto, Dodgers. Toronto does have home field advantage. Now, Toronto's 7-4 this postseason. The Dodgers 9-1. What takeaways, before we really break down this matchup and how they got there, do you guys have for either team? Who had the easier path? Who played better? What do you guys feel about their way to the World Series?
I would say the Blue Jays had the easier path because it started with a bye. So they didn't have to play an initial series, and then they weren't behind in pitching for the most part. I think it's easy to say that the Dodgers post wild card had a easier path because of what the result was, but I think that that could just be a product of the play of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Their starting pitching was outstanding for this entire postseason and still continues to be, and that has set them up for a lot of success in these games. I think they've played better, and I think that their path was also harder. They faced the team in the Milwaukee Brewers in the NLCS who won the most games in baseball this season and swept them. The Phillies, who were the betting favorite to win the World Series going into the playoffs. Vegas felt that the Phillies had the best team. 3-1. Obviously, the Reds was the Reds, but the Blue Jays got to sit at home for that series. So each way you look at it, in my estimation, the Dodgers played a tougher opponent.
I mean, the Blue Jays had to play more games and stuff. I mean, now the Dodgers have like the luxury of sitting back a few days, getting their pitching set up, more.
Are you too rested?
Yeah, I mean,
That's an
possibly.
interesting thing, and I want to talk about that in a little bit because history has a way of showing which side wins that matchup.
So,
but let's talk about that Dodgers LCS sweep. The Dodgers took on the Brewers. The Brewers were the best team in baseball all season. What went wrong in Milwaukee?
I think their lack of star power compared to the Dodgers just caught up to them. I think that, and that's something that's kind of happened for everybody that's played the Dodgers. So this isn't a shot at Milwaukee, but there was a reason throughout most of the summer that we didn't believe in the Brewers as contenders despite their record. They were a really great 162 team, but when it came down to the nitty-gritty, they didn't have enough guys. That's just the truth of the matter.
I think they were also like relatively young too there for like playoff experience too. Like they didn't really have, I guess, a lot of guys on their team.
I mean, they made the playoffs last year, got knocked out by the Mets with that heartbreaking home run from Alonso off of Devin Williams. But I think what really killed the Brewers is their offense just didn't show up. What was really their bread and butter, they were the Blue Jays of the National League. Both teams play a very similar brand of baseball.
But I think they're worse than the Blue Jays because the dependable guys against a tough matchup you could rely on to have a strong at bat, like how the Blue Jays have Vladdy and Springer, a guy that's been there. It just doesn't exist for Milwaukee. Like, obviously they have good players, but
you got Yelich, who
and I'm not saying that the Brewers don't have good players.
No, but I know
they don't have elite players or guys that are elite in those spots, a la George Springer.
So what's next for them? Because this was a season that, at least early on, people wrote the Brewers off. They kind of flew under the radar even while having the best record. Nobody really put respect on them. Is this going to be more of the same next year, or do we see a fall off?
Well, I think one of the luxuries of this for Milwaukee is nobody expected them to be this. I mean, I think, if I remember correctly, nobody on this show predicted them to even win the division. I could be mistaken there, but I know I was in on the Cubs this year. The thing with Milwaukee is you didn't expect the team to come together as well as it did, as quickly as it did, which means you have a lot to build off of. I think where they go from here is develop a Jackson Churio into potentially being that guy, the guy for you. You have some young talent just kind of all across the team that I really like. Frelick stepped up in a decent way this year. Caleb Durbin was really solid for them at third down the stretch. You have good pitching in Peralta. Mizorowski, the young rookie, looks really promising for them. Like, this team played cohesive baseball for 162 and got them to where they were at, but a lot of their best players are young enough that I think you just kind of commit to this. And maybe it goes the same way it went for the Baltimore Orioles. Obviously, the Orioles didn't have this level of success in the postseason that Milwaukee did. But
pitching is going to be the difference maker between Baltimore and Milwaukee.
For sure. But we remember where Baltimore was a couple years ago, where they had the great regular season and didn't put together in the postseason. So don't take it for granted, but I would suggest building around this core, bringing in a couple additional arms. But ultimately, I think you're good to kind of basically run it back and hope for development. To just
Now, I do have our NL Central predictions. Out of the four of us, including Ben, only two of us even had the Brewers having a shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Dylan, you had the Cubs winning the division, followed by the Reds and the Brewers. Obviously, giving the Brewers a chance to be a wild card team. John, you had the Brewers fourth in the division, as did Ben. I had the Reds winning the division, followed by the Cubs, then the Brewers. So the Brewers never finished any higher than 3 for any of us.
I must have been really high on the Pirates.
Well, a lot of that is because of how young the Brewers are and how we didn't expect it all to come together as quick as it did for them.
Well, I think we thought the Cubs and a lot of the other teams were getting better quicker.
Yeah.
And the Brewers were just so dominant for so long in the NL Central that we thought eventually
and there was a big change of pace for them and Woodruff started the season on the shelf. Like there was a lot of things that had to stack up for them.
Yes. Yeah. Now, winning that series was the Dodgers. The NLCS MVP was Shohei Ohtani. Now, this was his stat line. He went 5-14, good for a 357 average, a 1.643 OPS, 5 hits, 3 home runs, 4 RBIs. He had 3 home runs in that Game 4 win to secure the sweep. Pitching, also starting that Game 4, he went 1-0, 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 3 walks, 10 strikeouts, good for a 105 batting average against. Outside of Ohtani, what else can you say about this Dodger team? Because it just seems that everybody's firing on all cylinders. Even the guy that's notably not a postseason performer had an incredible performance.
I first want to say we got flamed in the comments.
Yeah.
From our last
I'm going to be vindicated.
I mean, Ohtani had quite literally the greatest baseball game of all time.
It was incredible.
I just want to throw that out there. Yeah. For me, the biggest story has been Sasaki at the bullpen. The guy has he's a starter who's performed like an elite closer for a team that their one concern was bullpen. And now it feels like they have as sure-handed a guy out the pen as any team has in the postseason. I don't know if the credit for that goes to Dave Roberts for being willing to make that move. I know that a lot of people are, especially on this show, not willing to give Roberts much credit, but to be able to, and maybe the reason is because this guy still tries to go to Trinan in the big spots instead of Sasaki, that I'm a little like, maybe it's like if you have to be forced over and over again to go to Sasaki. But I just think that mixed with the starting pitching that you've gotten from Snell, Yamamoto, like the pitching has been unreal for the Dodgers.
I mean, you got to give it to Roberts, though. I mean, he had injuries. I mean,
I want to give it to him, but I try and give it to him, and then he tries to put Trinan in again, and I'm like, what do you do, buddy? This isn't the regular season. We're not working. Like, the fact that he's able to treat these playoff games like it's the regular season, and like, let's just see if Trinan has it, is unreal.
But it works. They've only lost one game all postseason, so I guess he's allowed to try that out a little bit. He's got some cushion.
You say that, but man, if he does it in the World Series and it costs him.
I mean, I don't think so. I mean,
bad habits create bad results. I don't know if it'll be this year because of all the talent that the Dodgers have, but bad habits create bad results eventually. Trust me.
Eventually.
Watch the Yankees last year.
Starting pitching as your relief pitching, it's going to catch up eventually. But the fact now that you can use starting pitching as your, relief pitching and closing, I mean, anyone can manage that team. You can put. I think any of us go in and can manage the team.
Yeah, sometimes that star power just propels you. Do we have any final thoughts on the NLCS before going on to the ALCS?
No, man. I mean, Ohtani was the rightful MVP.
Yeah, no arguments.
The guy played outstanding. I hope he could do it on the World Series stage. It's not saying, I hope the Dodgers win. I hope we get the best of both teams.
That's what's best for baseball.
Yep.
Now, ALCS, Toronto, like I said earlier, had lost games 1 and 2 at home for taking, 2 out of 3 in Seattle and then taking game 7. Right? That adds up.
Yep.
Yep.
So it was such an incredible performance where Toronto down, back against the wall, losing the first 2 at home, taking 2 out of 3 in Seattle, then winning the final 2, game 6 and 7. It was an incredible performance. But on the flip side, Seattle's magical year ended. I really thought that they were destined to make their first World Series appearance ever. What was, what was the downfall of Seattle?
I think there were a couple things that attributed to it. One, just Toronto getting really situational, good clutch hitting when they needed it to. And I think that the fight that team has instilled from their manager throughout the locker room, throughout the dugout, is really something. I would also say Seattle's bottom of the lineup was not easy out, but wasn't exactly putting up as competitive at bats. I thought Toronto throughout their lineup was getting more consistent plate appearances. And ultimately, these two teams were so well and evenly matched in terms of pitching that I do think that mattered a little bit. And you look at game 7, bottom of Toronto's lineup gets on base for Springer. It just wasn't happening with Seattle's lineup as consistently.
Was Seattle a one-year wonder, or are we going to see them be possibly the team to beat next season?
I have been big on Seattle on paper for years.
That pitching staff has always been on paper incredible.
For me, it finally coming together makes me want to believe in it, but believing in it is also betting against the Houston Astros in a way.
And the Rangers.
The Rangers, who had the best run differential in the regular season in that division. So to me, it feels like in terms of a lucky to unlucky scale, Texas was unlucky this year. But I do like the lineup if they can bring in a couple extra bats. Like, I don't think Cal Raleigh's a one-hit wonder. I don't know if he hits the number of home runs he hit this year again, but it doesn't mean he can't be a 40 home run guy. J-Rod looked like he took another step. Eugenio Suarez for a full year.
I feel like Cal Raleigh, like his success was a big part of like the Mariners' overall success on the season. Like, he doesn't have the year he has. I don't know if Seattle is where they're at.
I think that's fair. When it's in terms of 1 year wonder, I'm assuming we're talking about being a playoff team. Like, I think that they could certainly be a playoff team next year.
I meant more as being like,
well, once you get there, you could go on
the World Series, like being the team that like everybody just says, I think they're the ones that's going to go, even though they didn't make it.
Were people saying that this year?
Going into the series, I feel like more people.
Corey was saying this.
No. But I'm saying
you were.
This, we all did. But going into this series, I feel like a lot of the pundits and a lot of the public were more on the Seattle is destined. They're the team.
Yeah, I think Seattle, if they do nothing, will be a playoff team next year. I don't know.
But will they be a World Series contender?
If they're going to have the same vibe they had this season?
I think even if Cal takes a step back, if that pitching staff is still what it is, going into a playoff series, with Raleigh, J-Rod, Suarez, I still think that they'll be a World Series contender. Like, who in the AL? I mean, we'll see what the offseason looks like, but who in the AL is going to get significantly better this offseason to really push them out?
I
guess it just depends on where Kyle Tucker goes, where
right. Goes. But if we just run it back, I have no reason to believe that they're going to fall off and can't repeat the success they had this season.
I don't know if they're going to have like the same vibe where they're going to feel like destined to go.
No, and
all the
I
way.
feel like
but
that's
I mean,
kinda
they'll be competitive.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's going to be the difference where I don't think they'll be able to recapture, like the Mets last year had that magic.
And the
The
Phillies in
Cleveland,
2022.
Phillies. Cleveland had that in 2017. They felt like that team when they had won like 20 games in a row.
Maybe I just missed the train on it. I never looked at Seattle as some team of destiny.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got off of them, especially after winning the division for like the first time in 20 something years.
Yeah, I didn't really feel that way, to be honest.
I mean, I
So
felt
I
like
guess
they were
that's
gonna.
kind of what's shaping my opinion here. I felt like it was less vibes and momentum and more like process for them.
I thought it
I
was
felt.
both.
I felt
Like
it more like that they were gonna win this.
I feel
AL,
like their
yeah,
process has been good for
yeah.
years and it is finally clicking.
On the Blue Jays side of things, their ALCS MVP was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He hit 385 with a 1.330 OPS.
Do
He
you
hit,
have Springer stats up by any shot? Because I'm
uh,
just with
I
that.
can if you give me a second, I can pull those up because
How,
I was curious to say outside of Vladdy, who would you guys have as your alternate MVP? Just because I think that there are so many deserving players.
yeah, I like Springer, Yasavage.
Yasavich is who I would have picked, but you
Guy's a
want Springer's
monster.
ALCS stats?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So they played 7 games. He had 29 at bats, 8 hits, with 3 of them for doubles, 3 of them for home runs, 7 RBIs. He's walked 3 times, struck out 6 times. The average was 276. He had a 1.054 OPS.
I guess like Vladdy's the rightful choice. If I had to pick somebody else, I'd pick the Springer because of the moment that he sent them to the World Series, basically.
Absolutely, I think that's a good one. I would still lean the Savage just because a rookie pitching the way he did
Yeah,
was pretty incredible. And he definitely had his struggles, in the postseason, but I just think he really put the team on his back when they needed pitching the most.
no, I agree. I think that's fair.
Mm.
And they
But
did all this without Bo Bichette.
they did this all without Bo Bichette, who says he'll be ready for the World Series. We don't know what role he'll be. I doubt he'll start due to the injury, but
You
he'll
mean DH?
he'll do something. So let's kind of talk about this World Series matchup. Some notes. This will be the Jays' first World Series since 1993, where they had won in 92 and 93. They beat Atlanta and Philly. This will be the Dodgers' first appearance since 2024, last year. We don't need to talk about that any further.
It's been so long.
The Dodgers have 8 World Series, and they want to be the first team to repeat since the 98, 99, 2000 Yankees. The last Blue Jays World Series game was the Joe Carter Game 6 walk-off home run. That was the last time the Blue Jays were in the World Series. So I think that's pretty incredible that we're going to see a lot of that because that is such an incredible home run. Watching the old videos of him rounding the bases, that's what I really love when I think about the World Series. Him, Kirk Gibson, plays like that where guys just...
Not Freddie Freeman last year? You don't think about that?
I don't think about that. No, not in the positive light, at least. What you dream of when you're a kid, hitting the ball in the backyard, hitting that walk-off World Series home run. It's pretty cool that we're going to get to see a lot of that this week from, the Blue Jays. And now after 36 years as a player, manager, and coach, Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly, gets to go to his first World Series, which is pretty incredible if you look at what teams he's been on and what teams he's coached. He was the Dodgers manager for a time. He played for the Yankees for over a decade, coached all around. It took him going to the Blue Jays as a bench coach to finally get there. And part of me wants to root for Don Mattingly to get his ring. I can't root for the Blue Jays because they're a division rival. Doesn't mean I don't think they will win. Doesn't mean I want them to win. But part of me at least wants to see Donnie Baseball get that ring that really eluded him for 40 years. So I got a couple keys. Tell me what you guys think, how each team will respond. So, how's Toronto going to deal with the DH starting pitcher dual threat Ohtani? And is Ohtani going to bring that Game 4 performance into the World Series? Are we going to start to see, a brand new playoff Ohtani that absolutely terrifies because of how good he could be?
I mean, to answer your question, pray. But I mean, the Brewers had a little bit of success working him inside and getting him to chase low and inside pitches. I'd imagine we see some of that. But if first base is open,
That's what I was just gonna say.
like
I was just gonna say,
like, how do you deal with the best player of all time? You
Who's
hope that he's
protected by some of the other greatest players. Like, it's not just one a Hall of Famer. He's protected by, Hall of Famer Mookie Betts, Hall of Famer Freddie Freeman.
You hope you can get him to chase some of those splitters out of the zone, the same way you got a lot of the Yankees to. Like, don't hear what I'm not saying here, but their approach to Ohtani could be similar to their approach to Ben Rice, a power lefty hitter. Get him to chase those low splitters.
He's prone to that.
Ohtani has shown he will chase. Now, if Ohtani makes contact, it could be a hell of a lot different than it was when Ben Rice was making contact. So, again, that's part of the prey. But get him with some off-speed stuff. Don't challenge him. That'd be my advice. Don't
challenge.
Yeah, don't go, I'll give him our best fastball and let's see if you can hit it. Don't do that.
Now, on the other end, how are the Dodgers going to stop one of the greatest postseason runs I've ever seen in Vladdy? Don't even try. Just first inning, first game, just let him take first base.
I believe the Dodgers starting pitching is better and not, go at him, but I don't think they need to pitch scared to him immediately. But if he starts performing, if we see Vladdy do what he did to the Yankees the first two games, I texted you during the series. I said, if there's 2 outs and every base is open, just throw him up. On to the next one.
By the time
because the difference between Vladdy is there's not.
Yeah.
It's Alejandro Kirk's behind him, not Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman.
Well, we got to the point where you're texting me during games 3 and 4. I don't want to see him take a swing the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Just walk him, not just
get him out of momentum.
It does not matter where we are in the game. Just do not let him swing the bat.
Yeah, just the best thing you could do is try and take those guys out of rhythm. And for Ohtani, that could be chasing pitches. For Vladdy, again, the approach that I had for the Yankees was if you throw up 4s and his first real at bat comes in the 8th inning because you can't throw up the 4 then, that guy hasn't swung all game. He's not in rhythm.
It's very true.
Again, these are 2 of the most lethal hitters in baseball. Don't challenge them. They'll make you pay.
Now, keeping in line with, not letting Vladdy beat you, how does this Jays, death by paper cut offense match up with this elite pitching staff of the Dodgers?
I mean, they put the ball in play. Blue Jays baseball this year, it's something that I've preached for a while. I wish our team, the Yankees, would, live this lifestyle. They don't, but you put the ball in play, good things will happen. You take good swings, good 2-strike swings, and work. And if they can get Bichette back in the lineup, that makes them a lot more dangerous, even if it's just as a DH. But they're obviously the Dodgers are deep, but the Blue Jays 1 through 9 are all great approaches. That's one thing I could say about Toronto is there's not an off batter for any of these pitchers coming their way. I think back to an at-bat Anthony Santander had against the Yankees in, I believe it was game 4, might have been game 3, where Schlittler was dealing. And then Santander works a 12-pitch at-bat. It resulted in an out, but you make the opposing starting pitching really work, and then you get to the bullpen quicker. Toronto could get to the Dodgers bullpen a lot quicker with these at bats, and you can't pitch. I mean, you can't pitch Sasaki every day for 3 innings.
You'll
You
have to
might be
pitch
able
Trinan.
to.
You'll have to
Yeah,
pitch Trinan.
like make them have to use that bullpen.
John, now how does that flip side feel? Like, how do you think the Dodgers offense stacks up to a bit of a more unknown Blue Jays staff with Savage, Scherzer, Bieber, Gausman? Like, these are really good arms that the Dodgers guys, they just haven't seen.
They got to get to them early. I mean, like a lot of these pitchers, like a lot of this stuff is because, like, the thing is with a lot of these teams, if you get to the starting pitchers early, make them, throw a lot of pitches, get to the bullpen earlier, you have a higher chance of just winning. I think with everyone, like it's the same thing. I mean, because I think that's every team's weakness. I mean, whether about it is the bullpen, because I think there's just not a lot of good bullpen arms. And I think the Blue Jays are at a significant disadvantage compared to the Dodgers, who can basically throw out starting pitching there at least for a few games. I don't know if like the Blue Jays can really do that, especially coming off a long series against the Mariners here. So you just really go after that pitching, kind of get ahead, and just hope you can keep the Blue Jays bats quiet.
Now, can Trey Savage keep that, brilliant playoff run going? And yet, this is a really tough lineup for the Dodgers. Can we see Savage really continue this streak, or is this a kind of where we might see that magic end?
I mean, the magic could certainly end. This is the best lineup he'll have faced. But Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, J-Rod, Cal Raleigh, like it's not like he didn't have success against some of the league's best hitters. The problem with the Dodgers lineup is it's just over and over again the league's best hitters.
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
Which pitcher on the Blue Jays staff do we think matches up the best against this Dodgers team?
Gausman. I think Gausman can get them to take some bad swings.
Yeah, I think that's good. I really want to say Scherzer. He just has not been good. I just really hope that veteran, Hall of Fame experience gives him that one more go-to. And I think he's going to be a really interesting arm to watch.
Oh, I think Shane Bieber and Max Scherzer could absolutely be the X factors of this World Series.
Now, we talked about how the Dodgers swept the Brewers and the Blue Jays and Mariners went to Game 7. In history, there's been 5 times now where there's been a sweep versus a 7-game series. This will be the 5th instance. All 4 previous times, the team that went to Game 7 has won the World Series, and the team that swept lost. The first time this stat I remember ever popping out to me was back in 2007, where it was Red Sox Rockies. And the Red Sox won the World Series after the Rockies had swept to get in. And I remember thinking, wow, the Rockies were great. And then to just not do anything. How do we think this long layoff is going to affect the Dodgers, who, like we said, won the World Series last year? They are the more experienced team by far in the postseason. Do we think this will have a big effect on them?
Without getting into a prediction, I think it's possible they could come out a little sluggish, but these are guys who have been in a lot of playoff spots, with a lot of playoff experience. I think that they are more built to handle it than most.
I think it helps them more that they got some more rest just to get the starting pitching and stuff, so they have everybody at their disposal for Game 1 at least. So I mean, and plus they have the experience and stuff, so I don't think it should be that huge of a deal.
I think this will be one of those instances where it doesn't matter. the Dodgers are equipped more than any other team to deal with this long layoff, and I think the Blue Jays on their end, they're very streaky, and I think being able to continue this play, going from 4 games against the Yankees, 7 games against the Mariners into the Dodgers, I think that'll play to keep their bats hot. So I think we are getting each team at their best scenario. Whereas I think if the Dodgers and Blue Jays were inversed, I think that both teams would struggle a little bit more. I would still give that edge to the Blue Jays to be able to overcome the rest. But I think a long 7-game stretch would hurt the Dodgers more than they would hurt the Blue Jays. So I think both teams will be going into it at their very peak performance. So let's get into those predictions. I'm taking the Dodgers in 5. I think the Dodgers just do what the Dodgers do, steamroll their opponents. I think Ohtani gets the World Series MVP, and I think we're going to really start to hear a lot about Ohtani being one of the greatest postseason players because he's going to go off this series. I think something awoke in him during that Game 4.
Yeah. I am going to take the Los Angeles Dodgers in 4. I think that
way to one-up me.
I think it's just one of the most dominant playoff runs we've ever seen. When I look at this matchup on paper, as with a lot of matchups with the Dodgers on paper, it's lopsided. Lineup, Dodgers. Starting pitching, Dodgers. Bullpen, not exactly a strength of the Blue Jays. And with Sasaki emerging, I go Dodgers. The only edge I give the Blue Jays is manager. And you can only do so much from the dugout in certain spots. So I'm going to go with the Dodgers in 4. My World Series MVP, though, will be the homecoming, the revenge series, Teoscar Hernandez.
All right, John, let's hear it.
I think I'm a little bit more optimistic with the Blue Jays here but I'm not going to change my prediction from what I've had at the start of the season to now. I started the season predicting the Dodgers were going to win the World Series. I'm ending it. They're going to win the World Series, but I said they're going to do it in 6 games. Give the Blue Jays a little hope there because I think, they're going to keep going. They're hot and stuff. Might sneak a couple in here at the start, but ultimately just lose out. And, just going to go with Ohtani as the MVP. I mean, I can go and say, someone else and stuff, but I just go with Ohtani. He's just going to
now
super generic.
If we both picked Ohtani, let's also both pick somebody else so we can have our own backup just in case it's not Ohtani. I'm going to go. You got Teoscar. Me and John picked the same guy.
We just had to go back through.
You guys picked the greatest baseball player of all time, and you guys get backup picks, but I just get just Teoscar Hernandez.
Do you want to take Ohtani too, and then you can pick Teoscar Hernandez?
No, I want to take Teoscar Hernandez, but
that's what I mean. So
but I don't want no. But if you guys come up right here, and one of you guys says your backup pick is Mookie Betts, and then Mookie Betts wins World Series MVP, I don't think you guys get to come and victory lap that. If I didn't get a second pick, you guys picked Ohtani.
So then let's all have a second pick. I'm going to go Roki Sasaki.
That was just insane.
Let's go.
You guys picked a player who's going to pitch a game in this and hit leadoff, and we're like, let's give ourselves an additional pick and not the guy who picked Teoscar Hernandez.
To be fair, if I wasn't picking Ohtani at first, I was really leaning Teoscar just because Teoscar is such a great postseason performer.
What we should have done is done this the way that John Boy does their home run drafts where we each just picked 2 and we couldn't pick the same. So you took Ohtani and then John had to pick somebody else if you wanted to give credit that way.
No, let's all just pick 2 anyway.
I'll take Yamamoto to throw another complete game because he's just been on fire.
And like Dylan used in his example, I'm going to take Mookie Betts.
Interesting. Nobody took last year's MVP, Freddie Freeman.
I don't think it's a great series for Freddie. I don't
think so either. I just think it's interesting.
Now, if the Blue Jays win, who's going to be the MVP if the Blue Jays win?
I mean,
It's Vladdy.
George Springer?
It could be Springer. It
Here-
could be any of them.
I think if the Blue Jays win, this goes 6 or 7. And I think if it goes 7, we could see 3 games of Gosman. So I wouldn't rule out Gosman as being just like a horse for them if they won.
Yeah, that Gosman, if it's not going to be Vladdy, I think also Alejandro Kirk is a very strong opportunity because
sneaky sprinkle on Ernie Clement, the way he's been swinging the bat.
he's been pretty incredible.
Like, if you believe in the Blue Jays, I don't, so I won't be sprinkling on it. But he's probably, like 30 to 1? And he's been their second
Awesome.
hottest hitter.
Now, we do have some other news around the league. Angels hired a manager. It's not Torrey Hunter or Albert Pujols like we thought it might be. It's Kurt Suzuki.
Hall of pretty good, Kurt Suzuki?
All pretty good. Does this move the needle at all for you on the Angels, or is this just another it's all right, but like he'll be out of the job in 2-3 years anyway?
They got to get the players.
And they have Mike Trout.
That they've had Mike Trout for how long? Or they had Mike Trout and Ohtani.
We'll see what the Angels do to provide Suzuki with a roster. I think that they should give a manager some runway to develop a culture there. And because it has been our entire lifetime of them as losers. There was like a little stretch in the early 2010s where they were kind of good with like young Trout and Trumbo, if I remember correctly. And then like that's when they got Pujols as well, where they were like, hey, this team could be cooking. And then, even when they had Ohtani and Trout, they were losers.
They didn't even make the playoffs once.
Yeah,
I don't
and
think.
it feels like they had it feels like a lifetime ago Ohtani was on the Angels, if I'm being honest.
It was 2 years ago.
What a career decision for him to leave that team. I the way that some of these NFL teams gave out contracts this offseason, like the Saints and the Jets that gave these new head coaches like 6-7 year deals, I would like to see Suzuki get at least a half decade to try and flip the culture of this team, because you're not going to make this to a competitive roster, especially in that AL West, over the course of a season or two. You have 3 really solid teams there you're competing with.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. So I guess you give him a runway. I'm always, pretty happy when teams hire former catchers as manager. I feel like they have the best view and the best ability to manage. Going back to like Joe Girardi, I always thought had it in him. Other guys like Joe Torre, just guys that were really good. It was David Ross. I enjoyed when he was manager. Stephen Vogt was a catcher. He's done great things in Cleveland. Catchers seem to have a very good baseball mind.
Yeah. Again, I'd like to see him set up a culture there. You are LA, so your market is just as attractive as the Dodgers. So, you should be able to bring in talent.
Do we have any final thoughts on this World Series matchup? The series starts Friday, October 24th, will be game 1 in Toronto. So we will have another conversation before this series is concluded. So I guess let's predict where we'll be at when we record next week. Are we talking possible sweep? Do the Blue Jays win?
I predicted a sweep. So however many games will there be? 3 games?
3 games. So we'll be looking at an imminent sweep on your end.
If we record Tuesday night, to me the series will be over if we just wait until after the game to record.
It's going to be really interesting. I think that the Blue Jays might come out and win game 1 before the Dodgers regain their footing. I'm just trying to find what avenue the Blue Jays have.
I mean, the avenue is play Blue Jays baseball,
right,
get
but
hot, and win
I think they have to win game
6-5
one.
games, 5-4 games, 7-5 game. Like you're gonna have to score. You're not gonna keep the Dodgers off the board. That's not gonna happen.
I think they need to win game one to really set the tone.
I think they need to win game 1 and 2.
They got to take both those home games if they want to
If they're
win.
going to win the series, you cannot even come close to doing what you did to Seattle. There's not coming back from down 2-0 going back to LA. You lose those first 2 at home. Don't even bother.
At the very minimum, they have to win one of those games.
I think they have to win both.
I think at the minimum at least one. But if they lose 2,
the World Series 2-3-2 format, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to win both. You have to ensure that series is headed back to Toronto. Otherwise, it isn't.
We'll see. Hopefully, we'll have some more baseball still going on next time we talk. But Dodgers, Blue Jays, Dodgers going back to back, possibly. Blue Jays looking to get their first World Series win since the early 90s.
My prediction: the Blue Jays lose.
Yeah. Well, for John Pauline, Dylan Mel, Corey Jason, signing off. And one more time, Dylan.
The Blue Jays lose.